The conference room smelled like recycled air and anxiety. Tara Williams watched the holographic display flicker between star charts while delegates from 40 different species argued over trade routes. She had attended 300 similar meetings over the past decade, and most ended with someone feeling insulted and nothing getting resolved. Today felt different, though. Something dangerous lurked beneath the usual diplomatic posturing. Havros, the Drexian representative, kept tapping his clawed fingers against the metallic table. His scales shifted from deep purple to aggressive red, a tell that every experienced diplomat recognized. The Drexians wanted something, and they planned to take it regardless of opposition. "The proposal is simple," Havros announced, his translator converting his clicking speech into flat common. "We request access to study human patrol vessel technology for scientific advancement, for galactic benefit." The room went dead silent. Several delegates physically recoiled. The Valthari representative, an ancient being named Prith whose species had sailed between stars for over 10,000 years, made a sound like grinding glass. "You cannot be serious," Prith said slowly. Each word carried weight. "You are new to this council, so perhaps you do not understand, but there are rules. Unwritten, yes, but respected by all. Human vessels are not to be interfered with, ever." Havros laughed, a harsh sound that made Tara's teeth ache. "Rules based on fear and propaganda. Humanity has convinced you they possess superior technology, but they are barely 3 centuries into space travel. My people have analyzed their public broadcasts. We have tracked their merchant ships. There is nothing exceptional about them except clever marketing and psychological intimidation." A Krenin delegate, whose people resembled intelligent coral formations, spoke up. "You misunderstand the nature of the boundary. It exists not because humans are aggressive, but because they are particular. Their protocols exist for reasons that benefit everyone." "Superstition," Havros dismissed. "I have studied every available record. Yes, there were incidents centuries ago, minor conflicts quickly resolved, but nothing that justifies this galaxy-wide timidity. We Drexians do not cower before baseless threats." Tara felt her stomach tighten. She had been briefed extensively when she took this position. Her superiors made one thing absolutely clear: if anyone ever proposed interfering with fleet operations, shut it down immediately. Use every diplomatic tool available. Because once things escalated beyond diplomacy, they escalated fast and completely. "Representative Havros," Tara said carefully, "I strongly advise against this course of action. Human naval protocols are strict for legitimate safety reasons. Our technology incorporates systems that require specific handling procedures. Attempting to access these systems without proper authorization creates hazards that extend beyond simple military concerns." Havros turned his attention to her, and his scales rippled with colors she didn't recognize. How convenient. Hidden dangers that only humans understand. Perhaps these dangers are simply excuses to maintain technological monopolies. Perhaps humanity fears competition. "This isn't about competition," Tara replied, keeping her voice level despite rising concern. "I'm authorized to arrange official technology exchanges through proper channels, educational programs, joint research initiatives, but unilateral action against fleet vessels will be considered an act of aggression." "Threats now." Havros stood, his impressive height making several smaller delegates shuffle backward. "This council operates on principles of equality and shared knowledge, yet humanity hides behind warnings and refuses to contribute their advances to collective galactic progress. We propose a formal vote. Should humanity be required to submit their technology for independent evaluation?" Prith made that grinding sound again, louder this time. "There will be no vote. You may be unfamiliar with our history, young species, but some of us remember. 400 cycles ago, my people made similar demands. We believed ourselves superior, entitled to examine human systems for our own purposes. We were wrong. catastrophically wrong. Ancient history, Havro said dismissively. Recent enough that I was alive for it, Prith countered. The entire room went quiet again. Prith rarely spoke of personal history. We sent ships, good ships with experienced crews. They believed they could simply board a human vessel, study its systems, and depart with valuable information. They never returned home, not because humans destroyed them, but because our own arrogance killed them. Human warnings were not bluffs. Human protocols were not negotiable. And when we finally understood this, when we finally listened instead of demanding, humanity helped us recover our dead and taught us why their boundaries existed. I will not watch another species learn this lesson the way we did. Havros remained standing, but his scales shifted to deeper shades. Your warnings are noted, but the Drexian sovereignty does not make decisions based on ancient cautionary tales. We believe in evidence, direct observation, scientific methodology. Tara activated her personal communicator, transmitting an emergency code that would reach Earth Naval Command within minutes. Then, I formally notify this council that any action taken against human fleet assets will trigger immediate defensive responses. This is not a threat. This is simply explaining our standing protocols, the same ones we have maintained since achieving faster-than-light capability. We shall see, Havros said. He gathered his materials and departed the chamber, several junior Drexian officials following quickly behind. After he left, Prith approached Tara's station. You should contact your fleet commanders now. We have agents throughout Drexian space. Their military has already deployed ships toward the Outer Rim territories. They are not planning to ask permission. Tara felt cold despite the climate-controlled environment. How long do we have? Hours, perhaps. They selected a target 3 days ago. A single patrol frigate operating near the Drift Nebula. Older model vessel, small crew, isolated position. They believe it will be easy to capture and study before anyone responds. They're wrong. I know, Prith said quietly. That is what worries me. I have seen what happens when someone attacks a human ship. The response is not proportional. It is absolute. Every vessel becomes a priority. Every crew member becomes family. Your people do not negotiate over such things. Tara was already composing the emergency transmission. We tried to warn them. Yes, Prith agreed, but some species must learn through experience. I only hope the cost is not too high. The message transmitted through quantum channels, reaching Earth in seconds despite the vast distance. In orbital command stations and planetary headquarters, alerts began sounding. Fleet commanders received tactical briefings. Ships across human space started receiving new orders. The Drexian sovereignty had broken the one rule everyone else learned to respect. Now they would discover why that rule existed. Rebecca Cole was halfway through explaining a maintenance issue when the proximity alarms changed everything. The frigate Steadfast had been running the same patrol route for 6 weeks without incident, cruising through the Drift Nebula's outer regions where cosmic dust played hell with long-range sensors, but shipping lanes remained relatively safe. Contact, announced Lieutenant Amos Grant from the tactical station. Multiple signatures emerging from hyperspace. Distance, 200,000 kilometers. Configuration matches Drexian military vessels. Rebecca felt her chest tighten but kept her voice calm. How many? 8 confirmed. 3 cruisers, 5 corvettes. They're moving into intercept formation. The bridge crew shifted from relaxed patrol mode to alert status within seconds. Engineer Nadia Okonkwo abandoned her report on the port stabilizer and headed toward her station. Communications Officer Roy Fisher was already attempting to establish contact protocols. This is Captain Rebecca Cole of the human frigate Steadfast, she transmitted on standard hailing frequencies. You are approaching a vessel of Earth's defense fleet. State your intentions. The response came quickly, translated through standard diplomatic channels. Human vessel Steadfast, You are ordered to shut down all propulsion systems and prepare for immediate boarding. Surrender your vessel peacefully and no harm will come to your crew." Rebecca exchanged glances with Amos. 45 crew members aboard a 30-year-old frigate against 8 modern Drexian warships. The mathematics were brutal. "Negative," Rebecca replied. "This vessel operates under Earth Naval Authority. We do not acknowledge your jurisdiction or authorization. Suggest you withdraw to avoid escalation." "You misunderstand your position, Captain. We possess overwhelming tactical superiority. Your cooperation is not requested. It is required." Amos had already run the combat calculations. "Captain, even if we somehow damaged one of their corvettes, the cruisers alone could disable us in minutes. Their weapons outrange ours by significant margins." "I know," Rebecca said quietly. Then louder, addressing her crew, "All hands battle stations. This is not a drill. Engineering, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Nadia, I need every bit of speed those engines can produce." The Steadfast lurched into motion, vectoring deeper into the nebula where the dense particles might interfere with targeting systems. It was a desperate move, buying minutes rather than hours, but minutes might matter. The Drexian formation split smoothly, cruisers maintaining distance while corvettes accelerated into pursuit vectors. Their weapons systems activated, energy signatures blooming across Steadfast sensors like malevolent flowers. "Incoming fire," Amos reported, remarkably steady considering they were about to get hit. The first shots were precise, calculated. They didn't aim to destroy but to cripple. Energy beams sliced through Steadfast's engine housings, vaporizing coolant systems and fusing control mechanisms. The ship shuddered violently, artificial gravity flickering. "Main propulsion offline," Nadia reported from engineering. "Maneuvering thrusters only. We're dead in space." Roy was frantically working his console, trying to punch through the communications jamming the Drexians had deployed. "Can't get a distress signal out. They're blocking everything across all frequencies." Rebecca made a decision. "Roy, forget standard protocols. Access the navigation computer. There's an emergency beacon system tied into the stellar cartography database. It uses a completely different transmission method. Activate it." "Captain, that system was designed for catastrophic failures. Using it now will burn out the entire navigation array." "Do it." Roy's fingers flew across controls he'd only read about in technical manuals. The beacon was essentially a one-shot hyperspace pulse, designed to transmit location data if a ship was destroyed or lost. Activating it deliberately would notify any human vessel within range that something had gone catastrophically wrong. The beacon fired for exactly 3 seconds before Drexian electronic warfare systems identified and destroyed the navigation array. But 3 seconds was enough. Somewhere out in the vast darkness, the signal propagated through quantum channels that military jamming couldn't block. The Drexians began boarding procedures. Docking clamps seized Steadfast's hull with metallic grinding sounds. Cutting torches started working on the main airlocks. "All crew prepare for boarding defense," Rebecca ordered. She accessed the command console and entered an authorization code she'd hoped never to use. "Computer, execute Protocol Nightfall." A smooth synthetic voice responded. "Protocol Nightfall acknowledged. Black box ejection in 10 seconds. Please confirm." "Confirmed." Hidden within Steadfast's superstructure, a small armored capsule detached from its mounting. It contained every sensor log, every communication record, every piece of data the ship had collected during the attack. Micro-thrusters fired, pushing it deeper into the nebula's concealing clouds, away from the Drexian vessels. The capsule was designed to be virtually undetectable, its emissions minimal, its profile smaller than most asteroids. Once clear of immediate danger, it would activate a specialized beacon that only human military vessels could recognize. The Drexians breached the main airlock. Armored soldiers poured into steadfast corridors, weapons ready. Rebecca's crew had prepared defensive positions, but they were scientists and engineers, not Marines. The fight was brief and one-sided. Rebecca found herself on her knees in the cargo bay, hands secured behind her back, surrounded by her crew. A Drexian officer who identified himself as Commander Ralton stood before them, scales shifting with colors that probably indicated satisfaction. "A wise decision to surrender," Ralton said through his translator. "Resistance would have been pointless and costly. Your vessel is now property of the Drexian sovereignty. You and your crew will be detained until appropriate arrangements are made." "You've made a terrible mistake," Rebecca said quietly. Ralton laughed. "Your species has convinced the galaxy that touching your vessels invites doom. But here we stand, victorious, and I see no retribution. Only an outdated frigate with a crew too sensible to die for pride." Rebecca said nothing more. There was no point. Either the beacon worked or it didn't. Either help was coming or it wasn't. Deep in the nebula, the black box activated its secondary systems. Encrypted signals pulsed outward, racing across light years at speeds conventional physics couldn't explain. They carried simple information: ship designation, crew roster, last known status. And 800 light-years away, those signals reached their destination. Admiral Patricia Hughes was reviewing supply requisitions when her command display flashed red. Emergency protocols activated across her flagship. Within seconds, every vessel in Third Fleet received the same alert. The Admiral read the decoded message twice, her expression hardening with each word. "Sound general quarters," she ordered. "Recall all personnel. Cancel shore leave. I want every ship ready for immediate hyperspace transit within 2 hours." Her executive officer approached cautiously. "Admiral, we're scheduled for diplomatic escort duty in the inner worlds. Redirecting the entire fleet will create complications." Patricia looked at him with eyes that had seen combat across 40 years of service. "Someone just attacked one of our ships. Politics can wait." Havros reviewed the preliminary reports from Commander Ralton with growing satisfaction. The human frigate had been captured intact, its crew secured without Drexian casualties, and initial scans suggested the vessel contained exactly the kind of advanced systems his government wanted to study. "The humans barely resisted," Ralton reported via secure communication. "Their weapons were outdated, their tactics predictable. I believe the galaxy's fear of their fleet is largely psychological warfare. They have convinced everyone they are formidable through reputation rather than capability." "Excellent work, Commander. Begin detailed cataloging of all systems. I want complete technical specifications within 48 hours, and maintain full sensor coverage. If any human vessels approach, we need advance warning." After ending the transmission, Havros leaned back in his command chair. The Drexian sovereignty had just proven what he had argued for months. Humanity's supposed military superiority was myth, not reality. A single outdated frigate with a minimal crew had fallen easily. Soon, Drexian engineers would unlock the secrets of human technology, and his people would claim their rightful position among the galaxy's dominant powers. The notification from Earth Naval Command reached every human diplomatic mission simultaneously. Tara Williams read the brief message 3 times, feeling her pulse quicken with each review. "Incident confirmed. Fleet response initiated. Stand by for updates." She immediately requested an emergency session with the Galactic Council. Within an hour, representatives from 30 species gathered in the main chamber, confusion evident on faces that ranged from insectoid to aquatic. "What is the meaning of this demand for emergency session?" asked a Felarian delegate. "We have protocols for scheduling conflicts." "The Drexian sovereignty has attacked and captured a human patrol vessel," Tara announced flatly. "As of 2 hours ago, The frigate Steadfast and its 45 crew members are being held against their will. This constitutes an act of aggression against Earth. The chamber erupted. Some delegates expressed shock, others demanded details. A few seemed skeptical. Prith, the ancient Valthari, simply closed his eyes and made that grinding sound again. "I warned them," Prith said quietly, though his voice carried across the chamber. "I told Havros exactly what would happen, but arrogance is the same across all species. They believed themselves exempt from history's lessons." "Where is Representative Havros?" demanded the Krenin delegate. "Returned to Drexian space 3 days ago," Tara replied, "likely coordinating this operation from a safe distance." A young Osarian representative, his crystalline body refracting light in nervous patterns, spoke up. "But surely this is a diplomatic matter. Negotiations should begin immediately. Perhaps the Drexians simply wish to establish new protocols for technology sharing." Tara shook her head. "They fired on a patrol vessel conducting routine operations, disabled its engines, boarded it by force, captured its crew. These are not the actions of someone seeking negotiation." "Then what will Earth's response be?" the Osarian pressed. "Military retaliation. That seems excessive for a single captured ship." Prith answered before Tara could. "You still do not understand. Humans do not calculate responses based on vessel value or crew size. An attack on one ship is treated as an attack on all ships. I have witnessed this. 400 cycles ago, my people made a similar mistake. We believed we could simply take what we wanted from a human transport vessel. We sent a small task force. 3 ships, nothing substantial." "What happened?" the Osarian asked. "Within one standard day, 40 human warships surrounded our homeworld. Not as an invasion force, as a message. They demanded return of their vessel and crew, formal apology and reparations. We complied immediately, but the lesson was clear. Human ships are not isolated assets. They are connected nodes in a network. Touch one and you activate all of them." Across human space, fleets that had been conducting routine operations received new orders. 3rd Fleet under Admiral Hughes had already begun moving toward the Drift Nebula, but they were only the first wave. 5th Fleet stationed near the core worlds, redirected from diplomatic escort duty. 7th Fleet, which had been conducting training exercises, went to combat readiness status. 9th Fleet, Earth's home defense force, deployed elements to strategic positions. In total, over 200 warships shifted from their assigned positions and began converging on a single point, the Drift Nebula and its surrounding space. Aboard Steadfast, Rebecca watched Drexian engineers examine her ship systems with growing concern. They were being careful, methodical, but they didn't understand what they were looking at. Human vessel technology incorporated safety systems that weren't immediately obvious. Fail-safes designed to prevent catastrophic failures during combat damage or system malfunctions. One of the Drexian engineers attempted to access the main power distribution network by bypassing authentication protocols. Warning indicators flashed across Rebecca's command chair, visible through the cargo bay where the crew was being held. "They're going to trigger containment protocols," Nadia whispered. "If they force access to the reactor management systems without proper codes, the safety interlocks will activate." "Can we warn them?" Roy asked. Rebecca shook her head slightly. "They wouldn't listen, and honestly, maybe it's better if they learn the hard way why our protocols exist." The Drexian engineer continued working, frustrated by systems that seemed designed to resist analysis. He consulted with colleagues who suggested more aggressive approaches, cutting through security encryption, physically bypassing control mechanisms. Each action triggered additional safety responses. Systems designed to protect the crew during emergencies began interpreting the forced access as damage. Containment fields activated around the reactor core. Coolant systems rerouted. Power distribution networks isolated themselves into independent segments. Within an hour, Steadfast's internal systems had effectively shut themselves down into safe mode, completely unresponsive to external commands. Commander Ralton received the engineering report with growing irritation. What do you mean the systems are locked? Every attempt to access core functions triggers defensive responses, the lead engineer explained. The ship seems designed to resist exactly this kind of examination. Without proper authorization codes, we cannot even determine how the systems interconnect. Meanwhile, the black box drifting in the nebula continued its patient transmission. And across the galaxy, human ships moved with purpose and speed that surprised even allied species. Admiral Hughes stood on her flagship's command deck, watching tactical displays update in real time. 22 vessels of Third Fleet had completed hyperspace transit and now held position at the nebula's edge. Sensors confirmed Drexian presence, her tactical officer reported. 8 vessels, positioned around a debris field that matches Steadfast's last known signature. Any communication from the Drexians? Negative, Admiral. They're maintaining sensor lock on us but haven't transmitted. Patricia studied the tactical situation. 8 Drexian warships against 22 human vessels. The numbers favored her fleet, but this wasn't about numbers. It was about sending a message that would resonate across every spacefaring civilization. Transmit on all frequencies, she ordered. Return our people now. Commander Ralton had expected negotiations, perhaps some posturing, maybe even threats. What he had not expected was the complete silence that followed Admiral Hughes's simple demand. His tactical officer kept updating the sensor displays, and each update made Ralton more uncomfortable. Commander, additional human vessels are arriving. I count 17 new signatures. No, wait, 23. They're deploying in defensive grid formation around our position. Ralton's scales shifted to colors that indicated stress. Weapons status. All human vessels have activated targeting systems, but they're not locked on us yet. It appears to be a ready posture rather than immediate attack preparation. The sheer number of ships arriving troubled Ralton more than anything else. Intelligence reports suggested human fleets operated in smaller groups, dispersed across vast territories. Concentrating this many warships in one location should have taken weeks. Yet here they were, barely 6 hours after capturing Steadfast. Open communication channel, Ralton ordered. Direct it to the vessel transmitting that demand. A holographic display activated, showing Admiral Patricia Hughes. She wore a simple uniform without excessive decoration, her gray hair pulled back efficiently, her expression completely neutral. I am Commander Ralton of the Drexian Sovereignty Armed Forces. The vessel you refer to is currently under examination as part of legitimate research initiatives. Your aggressive positioning is unwarranted and potentially provocative. Patricia's expression didn't change. You fired on a human vessel. You disabled it. You boarded it. You took its crew prisoner. These are acts of war, Commander. The only reason your ship still exists is because I want those 45 people returned alive and unharmed. We took no hostile action, Ralton insisted. We simply exercised our right to investigate potentially dangerous technology operating in neutral space. The Drift Nebula is not neutral space. It falls within zones covered by existing treaties that your government signed. But that's irrelevant now. You have 30 minutes to release Captain Cole and her crew, transfer them to their vessel or to shuttles. Move your ships out of weapons range. If these conditions are not met, I will consider your intentions hostile and respond accordingly. Ralton felt his confidence wavering but pushed forward. You are outnumbered in this system. Additional Drexian forces are en route. Your threats are meaningless. Patricia finally showed emotion, a slight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Commander, I have 22 ships here currently. Would you like to know how many more are coming? 47 vessels from 5th Fleet will arrive within 2 hours. 7th Fleet is dispatching 36 ships. 9th Fleet has 68 warships moving into positions around Drexian territory. And those are just the confirmed deployments. We have another 100 vessels preparing for transit if needed. She leaned forward slightly. You captured one frigate, one 30-year-old patrol vessel with a crew of 45, and in response, Earth is deploying nearly 300 warships. Do you understand yet? It was never about the value of the ship. It was about the principle. You touched something that didn't belong to you. Now you learn why nobody else does. Ralton's tactical officer spoke urgently. Commander, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures, multiple contacts emerging system-wide. The sensor displays lit up with new contacts, dozens of human warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel in coordinated formations. They weren't just surrounding the Drexian force anymore. They were establishing a presence throughout the entire system. Weapons lock, another officer reported, voice tight with stress. Multiple targeting systems now focused on our ships. Ralton realized the situation had shifted beyond his control. Fire a warning shot. Show them we won't be intimidated. His weapons officer hesitated. Commander, if we fire on them, they will. Execute the order. A single energy beam lanced out from the Drexian flagship, deliberately aimed to miss any human vessel but demonstrate capability. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every human ship activated its weapons systems simultaneously. Point defense grids came online. Missile bays opened. Energy weapons charged to full power. The sensor interference from so many active systems created a wave of electromagnetic noise that temporarily disrupted Drexian communications. But they didn't fire. They simply waited, weapons ready, targeting solutions locked. Admiral Hughes's voice came across all channels, calm and absolutely certain. Commander Ralton, that was your one mistake. You get no others. Surrender your vessels, release our crew, and accept detention. Or I will disable every ship you have in the next 10 minutes and take our people by force. Your choice. Aboard Steadfast, Rebecca heard the sounds of hurried activity through the cargo bay walls. Drexian soldiers were receiving new orders, their previously confident demeanor replaced by urgent movement. Something's changed, Amos whispered. They're scared. Nadia nodded toward the sealed doorway. Listen, those are evacuation alerts. They're abandoning their boarding parties. The cargo bay door opened, and a Drexian officer entered, his scales showing colors Rebecca's briefings had identified as distress and submission. You and your crew will be transferred to shuttles immediately, he announced through his translator. Gather your personal effects. You have 15 minutes. What about our ship? Rebecca asked. The officer's scales shifted to something that might have been shame. Your vessel has suffered extensive damage from our examination attempts. Our engineers attempted to access systems that proved more complex than anticipated. Safety protocols activated that we could not override. The ship is no longer functional. Rebecca felt anger rise but pushed it down. Steadfast had served for 30 years. Reliable, steady, exactly what her name implied. And now it was dead because someone wanted to steal secrets that were never secret in the first place. You destroyed her, Rebecca said quietly. It was not intentional, the officer began. Doesn't matter, you tried to take something that wasn't yours. You ignored warnings, and now you pay the price. Outside, Commander Ralton transmitted his surrender to Admiral Hughes. His ships powered down weapons, activated distress beacons in the standard sign of capitulation, and began evacuating personnel to designated coordinates. Patricia watched the Drexian vessels comply, feeling no satisfaction. This wasn't victory. This was necessity, a lesson that should never have needed teaching. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. Medical personnel ready to receive Steadfast crew, And someone get me a damage assessment on that frigate. I want to know if she can be salvaged. The report came back 20 minutes later. Steadfast was unsalvageable. Drexian engineers had triggered cascade failures throughout the ship's systems, trying to bypass security protocols designed to protect both crew and technology during emergencies. Patricia read the report twice, then transmitted new orders. 5th and 7th Fleets will establish blockade positions around Drexian space. No military vessels in or out. 9th Fleet will maintain current defensive posture. And someone contact Earth Naval Command. Tell them we need to have a conversation with the Drexian government about reparations. The Drexian Council chamber felt smaller than usual despite its vast dimensions. Havros stood before the governing assembly, scales locked in colors that indicated defensive posture, while various council members expressed their displeasure in increasingly harsh terms. You assured us this would be a simple intelligence-gathering operation, the High Chancellor said, her ancient scales showing patterns of controlled fury. Instead, we now have 3 human fleets blockading our territory. Trade has stopped. Our merchant vessels are stranded, and you stand there offering no solutions. The humans are overreacting, Havros insisted, though his voice lacked its previous confidence. One captured vessel does not justify this level of military response. Clearly it does, another council member interjected. Because it happened, the question now is how we extricate ourselves from this disaster you created. At the Galactic Council station, Tara presented Earth's formal demands to the assembled representatives. The list was precise and non-negotiable. First, immediate return of all Steadfast personnel and their personal effects. This has been completed. Second, formal public apology from the Drexian government acknowledging violation of territorial sovereignty. Third, reparations for the destroyed vessel. Fourth, submission to technology audit to ensure no human systems or data were copied or retained. Fifth, acceptance of monitoring stations within Drexian space to prevent future incidents. And sixth, participation in educational programs to ensure understanding of why human vessel protocols exist. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The younger species found the demands excessive. The older ones, like Prith, simply nodded. These terms seem harsh, the Osarian representative ventured. Perhaps negotiations could. No negotiations, Tara interrupted firmly. These are the conditions under which Earth will withdraw its fleets. The Drexian sovereignty can accept them, or they can explain to their population why human warships continue surrounding their homeworld. The Galactic Council voted to support Earth's position by overwhelming majority. Only 3 species abstained, and none voted against. The message was clear. The Drexians had violated rules that everyone else managed to respect. Within Drexian government circles, debate raged for hours. Military hardliners argued for armed resistance despite impossible odds. Pragmatists pointed out that human forces had demonstrated remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed Ralton's entire battle group. Instead, they disabled ships, captured personnel, and waited for diplomatic resolution. Eventually, wisdom prevailed over pride. The formal apology broadcast across galactic communication networks. The High Chancellor herself delivered it, her words translated into 40 different languages. The Drexian sovereignty acknowledges wrongful action against the human vessel Steadfast and its crew. We violated established protocols and ignored warnings from experienced galactic partners. We accept full responsibility and commit to making amends as specified by Earth's government. Rebecca stood before the Galactic Council 3 days later, testifying about the incident via holographic transmission. She had been debriefed extensively by Earth Naval Command, received medical clearance, and spent time with her crew making sure everyone processed the experience. Now she faced delegates from across known space and told her story simply and directly. We were conducting routine patrol operations when Drexian forces arrived without warning. They demanded surrender. When we refused, they disabled our vessel and boarded us by force. During their examination of steadfast systems, they triggered safety protocols that caused irreparable damage. The Osarian delegate asked the question many were thinking. Captain Cole, why are human safety protocols so extreme? Why design systems that destroy themselves rather than allow examination? Rebecca had expected this. They're not designed to destroy themselves. They're designed to protect everyone around them during emergency situations. Human faster-than-light technology uses controlled quantum field manipulation. If those systems fail incorrectly, they can create spatial anomalies that affect everything within several thousand kilometers. Our safety protocols prevent catastrophic failures. She pulled up technical diagrams on the holographic display. When Drexian engineers bypassed authentication systems, the ship's computers interpreted this as battle damage. Automated systems activated to contain potential reactor breaches, isolate power networks, and prevent cascade failures that could threaten nearby vessels. It wasn't sabotage. It was safety features doing exactly what they were designed to do. Prith spoke up, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. This is what I tried to explain to Representative Havros. Human protocols exist not to hide secrets but to prevent accidents. 400 cycles ago, when my people attempted similar actions, we damaged one of our own vessels trying to access human systems. The humans spent weeks helping us repair the damage and explaining why their safety measures were so comprehensive. We learned that lesson at minimal cost. The Drexians paid a much higher price for the same education. The council session continued for hours, but the conclusion was foregone. Earth's demand stood. The Drexians would comply. The technology audit took 3 weeks. Human technical teams examined every facility where steadfast systems had been analyzed. They found several copied files and incomplete schematic diagrams, all of which were destroyed under council observation. What surprised the Drexian engineers was that human technical teams then offered to explain some of what they had been trying to steal. "You wanted to understand our shield technology," explained a human scientist named Dr. Ruth Ackefer. "The principles aren't secret. We use harmonic resonance fields to deflect energy weapons. The mathematics are complex but not hidden. What you couldn't access were the safety systems that prevent the shields from collapsing catastrophically if damaged." A Drexian engineer named Kelsa, who had been aboard Steadfast during the incident, listened with growing understanding. "Our approach was to take first and learn later. You're saying we could have simply asked?" "Yes," Ruth replied. "We have technology exchange programs with 16 different species, formal education partnerships with 30 more. If the Drexian government had approached through proper channels, we would have shared basic principles gladly. What we protect are the safety protocols, because those require training and context to understand." The monitoring stations were established in orbit around 3 major Drexian worlds. Not weapons platforms, but sensor arrays designed to detect unauthorized military buildups or aggressive actions. Each station was staffed jointly by human and neutral species personnel. And finally came the educational component. 20 Drexian military officers, including Kelsa, traveled to human space for a 6-month training program. They toured shipyards, attended academy lectures, and studied the history of human space exploration. What affected them most wasn't the technology, it was the memorial walls. Every human ship construction facility had them, walls covered with names, thousands of names, each representing someone who died during the early years of faster-than-light travel, when humanity was still learning what worked and what killed people. Kelsa stood before one such wall, reading names of crews lost to reactor failures, navigation errors, and system malfunctions. Every safety protocol you encountered on Steadfast was written because someone died, explained the human instructor. We don't protect our technology out of arrogance. We protect it because we remember the cost of learning how to use it safely. 6 months after the incident, the galaxy had returned to something resembling normal operations. Human fleets resumed their regular duties. Trade routes reopened. Diplomatic relationships stabilized. But everyone understood that something fundamental had changed. Kelsa completed her training program and returned to Drexian space carrying knowledge that weighed heavier than any technical manual. She had been given access to human historical records, shown design failures that killed thousands, and walked through museums dedicated to those who died advancing humanity's reach into space. Her first assignment back home was presenting findings to the Drexian Naval Academy. 200 young officers sat in the auditorium, eager to hear about advanced human technology. Instead, she showed them pictures of memorial walls. "I was aboard Steadfast when we captured it," Kelsa began. "I thought I was participating in legitimate research. I believed human protocols were excessive bureaucracy designed to maintain technological advantage. I was wrong about everything." She displayed images of the damaged frigate. This vessel served humanity for 30 years. It survived 3 different conflicts, protected shipping lanes, rescued stranded ships from 17 different species, and trained 2 generations of human naval officers. We destroyed it in 6 hours because we didn't understand that human safety systems are designed to protect everyone, not just humans. A young Drexian officer raised a claw. "But surely their extreme measures prove they have something valuable to hide." Kelsa had asked the same question once. "They do have valuable technology, but they also have formal exchange programs with dozens of species. What they protect are the safety protocols, because those require context. Human faster-than-light drives use controlled quantum field manipulation. If you don't understand the failure modes, attempting to study one can create spatial anomalies that affect everything nearby." The Steadfast safety systems activated because our examination methods looked identical to battle damage. The ship protected us from ourselves. She showed footage from her training program. Human engineers testing shield generators, deliberately inducing failures to ensure safety systems activated correctly. Reactor drills where crews practiced emergency shutdowns hundreds of times until the procedures became automatic. Every human vessel carries the accumulated knowledge of 3 centuries of mistakes. They lost ships. They lost crews. They learned lessons written in the lives of people who trusted their technology and died when it failed. Now they design everything assuming it will eventually fail, and they build in protection for when it does. The Drexian Academy revised its curriculum based on Kelsa's recommendations. Safety engineering became mandatory. Understanding failure modes became as important as understanding normal operations. And most significantly, respecting other species' protocols became central doctrine. At the Galactic Council, Prith addressed the assembly during a routine session. The ancient Valthari had watched civilizations rise and fall, but he seemed particularly pleased during this particular speech. 300 cycles ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light capability and immediately began exploring with the enthusiasm typical of young species. They made mistakes, many mistakes. Ships were lost, crews died. But instead of hiding these failures, they documented everything, every error, every death, every lesson learned. He gestured to a holographic display showing human memorial databases, accessible to any species that requested access. When we attempted to examine their vessels 400 cycles ago, they could have responded with overwhelming force. Instead, they disabled our ships carefully, recovered our crews safely, and then spent months teaching us why our approach was dangerous. Not dangerous to them, dangerous to us. A newer council member, representing a species that had achieved space travel only 50 years prior, asked, why would they share such information freely? Prith made that grinding sound that served as his species' equivalent of laughter. Because humans understand something many older species forget. Space is hostile enough without adding unnecessary dangers. Their protocols protect everyone. When they say do not tamper with their vessels, they are not threatening you. They are trying to keep you alive. Captain Rebecca Cole stood on the bridge of her new command, a modern frigate named Resolute. Newer systems, better weapons, improved shields, but she missed Steadfast every day. The crew was finishing final checks before departing on their first patrol mission. Lieutenant Amos Grant had transferred with her, along with several other Steadfast veterans. Engineer Nadia Okonkwo was working miracles with the new ship systems. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Roy Fisher announced from communications. It's from Drexian Space. Rebecca felt tension spike before Roy continued. It's from the Drexian Naval Academy. They're requesting permission to name one of their new training vessels after Steadfast, as a memorial to lessons learned. Rebecca felt emotion tighten her throat. Tell them permission granted, and send them our service records, everything Steadfast did during her 30 years. If they're going to use her name, they should know what it means. The response came quickly, formal and respectful. The new Drexian training vessel would carry full documentation of the original Steadfast service record. It would be used to teach safety protocols and the importance of respecting boundaries. Admiral Patricia Hughes reviewed fleet deployment reports from her office on Earth. The crisis had revealed some useful information about human military logistics. The speed with which they had concentrated forces had surprised even allied species. But it had also reinforced something she had always believed. The galaxy needed to understand that human protocols existed for good reasons. She composed a message to all fleet commanders. Recent events demonstrated that some species still do not understand why we maintain strict boundaries around our vessels. Going forward, all ships will include educational packages in their databases. Any species requesting information about our technology will be directed to proper channels. We will share knowledge gladly through appropriate means, but we will not tolerate theft or unauthorized access. Make this clear in all diplomatic interactions. In Drexian space, a young sensor operator named Ralph monitored the border regions where human patrol vessels occasionally passed. He had studied the Steadfast incident extensively during his training. He understood the history now. When his display showed a human frigate approaching on routine patrol trajectory, his supervisor approached the weapons console out of habit. Ralph stopped him with a firm gesture. No, we learned that lesson. Let them pass. The supervisor, older and less educated in recent history, looked uncertain. They're in our sensor range. We should at least track their movements. We can track them passively, Ralph said, but we do not lock weapons. We do not approach. We acknowledge their transmission and let them continue their patrol. Those are the protocols now. The human vessel, unaware of the brief interaction, continued on its assigned route. Its crew never knew that a young Drexian operator had just prevented what might have become another incident. Across the galaxy, similar moments occurred daily. Species that once viewed human protocols as arrogance now understood them as wisdom. The rule about not tampering with Earth's fleet remained, but now it was respected for the right reasons. Not because humans were stronger, though they were. Not because humans would respond with overwhelming force, though they would. But because the protocols existed to protect everyone, and sometimes the hardest lessons were the ones that cost the most to learn.